Hi, and welcome to Trust and Obey with Chuck Frank. This is a Tuesday afternoon Chuck It entitled The Lion's Den. And we're going to have a reading today from the book of Daniel, chapter 6, because it has a lot of tie ins to what's going on right now and what is going to be happening throughout the rest of this year. So let's see how we can make some linkages here. So it says the plot against Daniel. So it pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps to be over the whole kingdom. So 120 satraps is like our 100 senators, rhinos, Democrats, and a handful of loyal Republican MAGAs. So it says, and over these 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one. So this is like 3 vice presidents over the senators, and Daniel's one of the 3. So Daniel was one that the satraps might give account to them so that the king would suffer no loss, because the king does not have Doge. He does not have Elon. He has no idea if he's being ripped off. And this king in particular, this king, Darius, is actually a 62-year-old general under Cyrus the Great. And he's been a military guy his whole life. He's not a politician. He's not a businessman. And he knows it. And he doesn't want this job. But Cyrus is busy acquiring more kingdoms via war. And so he says, Darius, get up there and you be king for 2 years. And then I'll get up there and I'll take over. So this is the situation. We don't really have a Biden in Darius. We just got a guy who is more like Trump in 2016. He has a lot of life experience, but he doesn't know all the tricks of the political life. All right. Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and satraps because an excellent spirit was in him. What does that mean? It means God put his hand over Daniel because Daniel was going to do something special and unique on behalf of God's will. Does that sound like anybody else we know? How about the fresh president of DC? We know that the hand of providence has been over Donald Trump. And so we have a parallel here. And Daniel has an excellent spirit was in him. So let's see how that plays out. So the governors and satraps sought to find some charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom. This book says there's nothing new under the sun, right? As soon as they see that Darius sees that there's something special about Daniel, they decide, no, we got to take this guy down. So it says, so the governors and satraps sought to find some charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find no charge or fault because he was faithful, nor was there any error or fault found in him. So this reminds me of when Trump decided, you know what? I'm thinking about picking J.D. Vance to be the vice president. And all the senators, rhinos, Dems, all of them, they were saying, no way. This guy, he's a hick from Ohio. He's a vet. He's a Marine. He doesn't like war. And war is our bread and butter. So we got to figure out some way to besmirch him, some way to say, you know what, this guy, he's questionable. And the big donors don't like him. So it says, then these men said, we shall not find any charge against this Daniel unless we find it against him concerning the law of his God. So these guys, they're like, You know, we've had our private investigators. We've been checking his email. We've been checking his mail. We've been going through his trash. We can't find anything wrong with this guy. So let's use his faith. Let's use his God and try to turn that away. And you know what? Let's go talk with a specialist in this. So they found a guy in the kingdom. Okay. His name was Andrew Weissman. And they said, look, we can't find anything on this guy, and our gravy train is going to dry up. And what do you suggest? And he said, I suggest a strategy called lawfare. And that's what they did. So these governors and satraps thronged before the king and said thus to him, King Darius, live forever. All the governors of the kingdom, the administrators and satraps, the counselors and advisors have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days, except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. This sounds exactly like what they did to Trump in New York City. So this Weissman guy is good. They created a law to take Trump out, and it was only going to be good for 1 year. They invented it for him, and then they were going to get rid of it. And now these guys, thousands of years before New York City even existed, they were working this same lawfare. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing so that it cannot be changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not alter. It means once King Darius signs it, he can't even take it back. So therefore, King Darius signed the written decree because he's like Trump in 2016. He knows what he knows in his world. He's a player in his world, but now he's in a den of vipers, and he doesn't understand all of the tricks of the trade and how they get rich illegally. And we're just finding that out. So bravo to Doge and Elon, and I hope they keep uncovering everything, because this is going to get uncovered and it's going to get ugly unless you're a lion. All right, Daniel in the lion's den. Verse 10. Now, when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home, and in his upper room, with his windows open toward Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as was his custom since early days. So this guy knows that this law is meant to target him and to target his faith. And he does not trust in men. And he does not want to get into this conspiracy. He trusts God, that if God wants to preserve him, God will. So he sticks to what he knows God approves of. And that is prayer 3 times a day, facing Jerusalem. And it's the old adage, trust God and leave all the outcome to him. So then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. And they went before the king and spoke concerning the king's decree. Have you not signed a decree that every man who petitions any god or man within 30 days, except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, the thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not alter. He's not happy. He knows he's been tricked. So they answered and said before the king, that Daniel, who is one of the captives from Judah, does not show due regard for you, O king, or for the decree that you have signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day. And the king, when he heard these words, listen to this, was greatly displeased with himself and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. Then these men approached the king and said to the king, "Know, O king, that it is the law of the Medes and Persians that no decree or statute which the king establishes may be changed." In other words, we know you like this guy. We know you were going to make him prime minister, and you signed this law, and now you're stuck. You can't go back. So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, "Your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you." We've seen God delivering Trump, right? Every kind of lawfare imaginable. Every awful district attorney in New York and Georgia and elsewhere, all trying to take out his family with hundreds of subpoenas, try to take out his business with false charges that he duped banks. And the banks all show up and say, "We love this guy. He paid off the loans early. We want to do more business with him." Didn't matter. They want him in jail 300, 700 years, whatever they can work out. False witnesses testifying against him. And then in the field in Pennsylvania, his lion's den. The three-letter agencies all set him up for assassination, but God would not have it. And God is not going to have it where Daniel's concerned. Then a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signets of his lords, that the purpose concerning Daniel might not be changed. Now the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting, and no musicians were brought before him, no entertainment. Also his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste to the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried out with a lamenting voice to Daniel. The king spoke, saying to Daniel, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?" Then Daniel said to the king, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you." Now the king was exceedingly glad. He was glad for Daniel and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him, because he believed in his God. And the king gave the command. Listen to this. This is where we're going. And they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives. And the lions overpowered them and broke all their bones in pieces before they ever came to the bottom of the den. And Darius decided they wanted to trick me into killing an innocent man who was doing nothing but good. And so their punishment will be the punishment they intended for him. And I would say that the punishment for treason is extremely harsh. Now, I don't want to see anybody's wives or children entangled in this, but I do think every single dollar stolen, everything that Doge finds, has to be returned to the Treasury. And then people can sort out their lives. They had it fat for a while. Then King Darius wrote, "To all people, nations, languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom, men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God and steadfast forever. His kingdom is the one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end. He delivers and rescues." We've seen it. "And his works, signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions." So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. So I've taken some minor liberties here, but this book says there's nothing new under the sun. And we can see that. We can see that there's a parallel between Daniel and Trump. There's actually a parallel between Darius in his lack of experience with political nastiness and Trump in 2016. Darius was extremely angry at himself. And then when Daniel was saved, he was extremely angry at the people who wanted to do evil under his watch. And so he punished them accordingly. And here's the issue about punishment. It has to be appropriate, and it has to be. Because if there is not a fitting punishment for what we are all going to find out has been the grossest of malfeasance, not just financially, but morally and in every way. It's going to be very, very difficult for people to wrap their minds around. And the truth is that if there is not a fitting punishment for horrific crime, then it will just happen again. And in the case of politics, 4 years, 8 years from now, as soon as there's a regime change, even if it's a Republican president, the rhinos in the Senate will start going, "I'm getting the Mitch itch. I feel like being rich. The Mitch itch, you know what it is. I got to have $1 million at least, $1 billion if I can get away with it. But I'm not just here to serve the people. They're a bunch of fools." Well, we may have been fools, but we've been awakened. And now we're going to see the outcome. We're going to see the uncovering of all of this, and then we're going to see what the appropriate response is. God is a God of mercy, but God will not be merciful to people who consistently choose evil. Let's pray for his blessing. Pray for all of the folks who are going to find it very hard just to wrap their minds around what is going to be found out. It's going to be rough seas, but nothing good comes without difficulty. God bless you all. Thanks for listening.